Hello viewers, welcome back to the Moose Mobile Auto Repair channel. And so today, this is part 2 of the diagnostics for the 2015 Toyota Sienna for the P0420 trouble code, the catalyst efficiency below threshold on bank 1. So in part 1, I replaced the catalytic converter because it has started to fail. And so now in part 2, I just wanted to discuss about on what is a catalytic converter on a vehicle and how it functions and how it works. And I will show you on how to diagnose a P0420 code and the failure of the catalytic converter. So the first thing is, what is a catalytic converter? A catalytic converter is an exhaust emission control device that uses a catalyst to convert harmful pollutants in the exhaust gas from an internal combustion engine, in this case, and it converts the pollutants into less toxic substances. So the function of the catalytic converter is to reduce harmful emissions by converting the pollutants like nitrogen of oxides. They will abbreviate it as NOx, the X representing any number. So NO1, NO2, NO3, NO4, and so on. And carbon monoxide, CO, and hydrocarbons, HC, unburnt hydrocarbons, and into less harmful substances. So it needs to convert these harmful pollution gases into less harmful gases. The less harmful gases are nitrogen gas, N2, carbon dioxide, CO2, and water, which is H2O. So this is an ideal situation on what we want. We want the catalytic converter to do its job to reduce pollution. And so how it works, the converter contains a catalyst inside, and they have precious metals, specifically platinum, palladium, and rhodium. And it's coated in a honeycomb substrate structure. You'll see honeycombs inside, and typically it's like a ceramic material all around. So how this works is the precious metals, they have a chemical reaction between the gases, and so it breaks it down. It breaks the pollution down into less harmful compounds, and that's very important because it's supposed to keep the emissions low and to protect the earth from any harmful gases reaching the atmosphere. So now we are going to proceed into the diagnostic part of this. And so the catalytic converter is an oxygen storage unit. And so the upstream air fuel sensor or air fuel ratio sensor and the downstream oxygen sensor are both talking to each other. They're both checking the efficiency of the catalytic converter. It's always checking and communicating with the vehicle's computer to check the oxygen content inside the catalytic converter to see if it's operating correctly. Now the air fuel sensor is more of a performance and drivability based sensor. It's very important for the proper drivability of the vehicle. And the rear oxygen sensor, the downstream sensor, its job is just to check to see the efficiency of the catalytic converter, to make sure that it's working properly. And so in this case, if both of the upstream and downstream oxygen sensors, the air fuel and the oxygen sensor, show similar or the same readings, it's indicating that there's a problem with the catalytic converter. It could be clogged or just not functioning properly, because its job is designed to change the oxygen levels between the two sensors. So on what's coming in, if the catalytic converter has failed, on what's coming in will be the same as what's coming out, because the job of the catalytic converter is to reduce pollution. So it cannot be the same exhaust gases that came through the exhaust and be the same exact exhaust gases that are coming out. It doesn't make any sense. So that catalytic converter is like the middleman. The catalytic converter has to reduce the pollution in order for it to be functioning correctly. So when you see, typically you are supposed to graph the sensor, the parameter IDs, the sensors, the two sensors. It's easier to see it on a graph. And so when you see the graph, you the upstream air fuel sensor should go up and down like a swirly line. That's what you want to see on a warmed up engine on a steady cruise. And for the rear oxygen sensor, you want to see a steady line, like 0.45, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, or on whatever it may be. You want to see a steady line, somewhat of a steady line on the graph. So a normal catalyst would show, it would go up and down like waves, swirly lines, and the rear bank sensor should be a steady line, and that would be a normal function of the catalyst. Now if the catalyst is bad or clogged up or is not working properly, a deteriorated catalyst will show similar readings between the upstream and downstream. So the air fuel sensor and the oxygen sensor are going to be reading exactly the same or similar. So the upstream sensor is going to be a swirly line, and the rear oxygen sensor downstream is also going to be a swirly line. So you have to make sure that you are doing this on a warmed up engine. The vehicle has warmed up and it's in closed loop mode. In open loop, the vehicle is not using any feedback, so it's using the engine coolant temperature sensor to adjust the air and fuel mixture, so it's not efficient. But after it goes from open to closed loop mode, the feedback control now is controlled by the oxygen and air fuel sensors after the vehicle has warmed up. So you have to make sure that when you are diagnosing this, that the vehicle has fully warmed up and it's in closed loop mode. And so and what you don't want to see is both of the sensors are reading the same on the graph. Both are going up and down in like a swirly line. You don't want to see that. And that's how you would know that if the catalytic converter has failed. And so now I'm going to proceed with the the graphing of the actual scan tool, we are going to do the before and after repairs, and I will show you. It might be difficult to see, but I'll try my best to explain it to you and demonstrate the graphing on the scan tool. So now I graph the two sensors, the air fuel sensor and the oxygen sensor on this one for bank 1 only. I already checked the fuel trims and everything before this, and everything is okay. The fuel trims are usually within plus or minus 8, at most plus or minus 10, and that's normal, but usually they are closer to 0. And so anyhow, I just graphed only the air fuel and the oxygen sensor so that we can see everything easier, just to make it simple for you guys. And if you look at the graph closely, you can see that the air fuel sensor and the oxygen sensor are starting to mimic each other. At this time, the check engine light was not on. It did have the P0420 trouble code stored, but the check engine light would come on and go off depending on driving conditions, because this is an intermittent issue that's been happening over time. So the check engine light would come on and it would go off some days. So it's an intermittent catalytic converter, because the catalytic converter has only failed by a borderline, by a small amount, when I checked on mode 6 data. And I'll post a separate video for that, for the mode 6, if you want to learn more about that. But on this graph, you can slowly kind of see that the rear O2 sensor is mimicking the air fuel sensor readings for the graph. And so this is an indication that the catalytic converter is not functioning properly. And this is not on what we want when we are graphing. As I stated earlier, we want to see a flat line on the rear on the rear oxygen sensor. We want to see a flat line the entire time on a steady cruise. And when you look at the air fuel sensor, it's pretty much it's copying exactly the same as the oxygen sensor. So this is indicative that the catalytic converter is not doing its job, because on what's coming in, the exhaust gases that are coming in is relatively the same as what's coming out. So it's not converting the pollution into less harmful pollution. And that's what's happening here. It's you can somewhat see that the oxygen sensor is copying on what the air fuel sensor is doing. And I know that on older vehicles, they may have the upstream as an oxygen sensor and the downstream also as an oxygen sensor. But on newer vehicles now, they have the air fuel sensors now as the upstream and the oxygen sensor as the downstream. But although they work differently, you can still see that the oxygen sensor is still able to mimic the air fuel sensor readings. So after I did the repairs, I re-graphed the sensors again, and at a steady cruise with the vehicle warmed up at about 60 kilometers an hour, you can see the oxygen sensors somewhat of a flat line, but the sensors should be doing and what it should be doing. So if I accelerate, the oxygen sensor reading is going to go up 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, or and whichever it may be. And similarly with the air fuel sensor, it goes up to 5 volts, then drops to 1 volt on acceleration. A deceleration, it will be opposite, goes to 5 volts. For air fuel sensors, they work differently than oxygen sensors. On Toyota vehicles, they have a reference point at 3.3 volts. This is an imaginary number reference point that the manufacturer has set. So every manufacturer is going to be different, but Toyota's 3.3 volts. When you accelerate, it jumps to 5 and then drops to 1 volt, or closer to 1 volt. It won't go exactly to 1 volt. Usually it goes to like 2 volts. And so when you decelerate, it should go up to 5. It's opposite. But that's what you see on the scan tool. The momentary acceleration, you'll see a spike to 5 volts, and then it will drop after a few seconds to like 2 volts or something. There's a certain amount of delay for each of these specific sensors. And so anyhow, it may seem like that at some point in time that the graph it is mimicking each other, but it's not, because the sensors are doing on what they are doing. And at this point in time, there was a lot of traffic, so it was a little bit difficult to go on a steady cruise the entire time, and so it may be difficult to see that after the repairs. But I confirmed the repair after that, and it's functioning as it should. And so that's going to be it for this video. I'm just hoping that you guys found this helpful. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed to it. And please don't forget to hit that bell notification if you haven't done so. And when you hit the bell notification, it's going to notify and when I put out a new video, and you will be notified about that. And so that's going to be it for today. Don't forget to give it a like, and have a good day and take care.